In the heart of the Viking Age, a man was born whose legacy would be etched not in sagas of plunder, but in the discovery of a vast, new world. His name was Erik Thorvaldsson, known to history as Erik the Red. He was born around the year 950 AD in the Jæren district of Rogaland, Norway, a land of fjords and hardened seafarers. His life, from its very beginning, was steeped in the harsh realities of Norse society. Conflict and exile were threads that would weave through his family's story, starting with his father. Erik's father, Thorvald Asvaldsson, found himself on the wrong side of the law. For the crime of manslaughter, a common yet serious offense, Thorvald was banished from Norway. This sentence of exile forced the entire family to leave their homeland behind. They sailed west, seeking refuge in the newly settled lands of Iceland. In Iceland, a land of fire and ice, young Erik grew into a man. He inherited not only his father's farm but also his fiery temper. He established his own farm, which he named Eriksstadir. He married a woman named Theodhild, and they started a family of their own. However, the specter of conflict was never far away. A dispute arose when his thralls, or servants, accidentally triggered a landslide. This landslide destroyed the property of his neighbor, Valthjof. In a fit of rage, a kinsman of Valthjof killed Erik's thralls. Erik, bound by the Viking code of honor, sought vengeance for his slain servants. He retaliated by killing the kinsman, Eyjolf the Foul, and another man named Hrafn the Dula. This act of retribution led to his first local banishment. Forced to move, Erik relocated to the island of Oxney. But trouble followed him like a shadow. He entered into another dispute, this time over treasured decorative beams called Setstaker. A man named Thorgest had borrowed the beams but refused to return them. The argument escalated into a bloody brawl, resulting in the deaths of Thorgest's sons. Once again, Erik found himself facing the judgment of his peers. The Althing, Iceland's parliament, sentenced him to a 3-year exile. This was a severe punishment, casting him out from the entire Commonwealth of Iceland. Instead of returning to his ancestral Norway, Erik's gaze turned westward. He remembered tales of a large landmass sighted decades earlier by a mariner named Gunnbjorn Ulfsson. Gunnbjorn had been blown off course and had seen skerries, or small rocky islands, near this new land. Erik decided to use his years of exile to seek out this mysterious land. He gathered a crew of loyal followers, men as adventurous and daring as himself. In the spring of 982 AD, he set sail from the Snæfellsnes Peninsula in western Iceland. His ship was a sturdy Nar, built to withstand the harsh conditions of the North Atlantic. The journey was perilous, a true test of Viking seamanship and courage. They faced monstrous waves, freezing winds, and the ever-present danger of getting lost. After a grueling voyage of approximately 400 miles, they sighted land. Erik carefully navigated his ship around the southern tip of the landmass, a point later known as Cape Farewell. He sailed northward along the western coast, searching for a suitable place to land. He found a fjord system with sheltered harbors and surprisingly green pastures. The conditions seemed favorable, reminiscent of the best parts of Iceland. He and his crew spent their first winter on an island he named Eriksey, Erik's Island. For the next 3 years, Erik meticulously explored the new land, ventured deep into the fjords, claiming the best lands for himself and his future followers. He found that the western coast, barred by ocean currents, was habitable and suitable for farming. He gave the land a clever and enticing name, Greenland. He reasoned that a pleasant name would attract more settlers from the overpopulated and resource-scarce Iceland. It was a masterful piece of marketing, a promise of prosperity in a vast, icy wilderness. When his 3-year exile was over, Erik prepared to return to Iceland. He sailed back in 985 AD, his mind filled with plans for a new colony. Back in Iceland, he became a powerful advocate for his discovery, told captivating stories of a land of opportunity, a Greenland waiting for settlement. His words resonated with many Icelanders who were struggling with famine and limited land. Many were persuaded by his vision and charisma. An ambitious colonization effort was organized. In the summer of 986 AD, a grand fleet of 25 ships set sail for Greenland. Erik the Red led this massive expedition, a testament to his leadership and influence. The fleet carried around 500 men, women, and children, along with livestock and all the necessities for starting a new life. The journey, however, was far more treacherous than Erik's first voyage. The sagas tell of a difficult passage, with many ships lost to the unforgiving sea. Some ships were forced to turn back, their hopes dashed. In the end, only 14 of the original 25 ships made it to Greenland. Despite the losses, a new chapter in Norse history had begun. The colonists established 2 main settlements in the sheltered fjords of the southwestern coast. Larger was the eastern settlement, or Easterbygge. The smaller was the western settlement, or Vesturbygge, located further up the coast. Erik established his own chieftain seat at a place he called Brattahlid, in the heart of the eastern settlement. Brattahlid, meaning steep slope, became the center of power and community in the new colony. He was the paramount chieftain of Greenland, a respected and powerful leader. The Norse settlers adapted to their new environment. They farmed the land, raised livestock, and hunted the rich wildlife. They hunted seals, walruses, and caribou to supplement their diet and for trade. Walrus ivory and rope were particularly valuable commodities. These goods were traded with Iceland and Norway for iron, timber, and other essentials. Erik's wife, Theodhild, eventually converted to Christianity. She had the first church in Greenland built, known as Theodhild's Church. Erik himself, however, remained a staunch follower of the Old Norse gods. Sagas say he was displeased with his wife's conversion. Erik and Theodhild had 4 children, 3 sons, Leif, Thorvald, and Thorstein, and a daughter, Freydistignan. His son, Leif Eriksson, would go on to achieve even greater fame. Inspired by tales of lands further west, Leif would sail from Greenland and become the first European to set foot in North America. Erik had intended to join his son on this voyage. However, on his way to the ship, his horse stumbled and threw him to the ground. He took this as a bad omen, a sign that his exploring days were over. He told Leif, "It is not destined that I should discover more lands than this one we now inhabit." Exile. Erik the Red died in the winter of 1003 AD. His death was likely the result of an epidemic that swept through the colony. His legacy, however, was secure. Through a life of conflict, exile, and relentless ambition, he had founded the first European colony in the New World. The Norse colony in Greenland, born from his exile, would survive for nearly 500 years. It stands as a remarkable chapter in the history of human exploration. Erik the Red, the fiery-tempered exile, had turned his punishment into a kingdom. His story is a powerful saga of resilience, ambition, and the unyielding human desire to explore the unknown. The initial journey from Norway to Iceland was a formative experience for the young Erik. Growing up in Iceland, he learned the skills of farming and survival in a challenging landscape. The first dispute over the landslide was a turning point in his life in Iceland. His decision to seek vengeance was driven by a strict code of honor. Being outlawed by the Althing meant he was fair game for any man to kill without penalty. His ship was not just a vessel, but a self-contained world for his crew. Navigating without modern instruments required immense skill in reading the sun, stars, and sea. The first sight of Greenland's eastern coast was a wall of impenetrable ice. This forced him to make the dangerous journey south to find a way around the ice sheet. The discovery of the green western fjords must have felt like finding paradise. He spent a summer exploring a fjord he named Eirik's Fjord. The abundance of fish in the rivers and fjords promised a reliable food source. His return to Iceland was met with both skepticism and excitement. The decision to join the colonization voyage was a life-altering gamble for each family. The loss of 11 ships was a catastrophic blow to the fledgling colonial effort. The first task upon arrival was to build shelter before the harsh winter set in. The social structure of the new colony mirrored that of Iceland, with powerful chieftains and farmers. Life was a constant struggle against the elements. Summer brought a brief but intense period of growth for crops and pastures. The Norse Greenlanders developed a unique culture, adapted to their isolated world. Contact with the indigenous Dorset or Thule people was likely infrequent and sometimes hostile. The arrival of Christianity, brought by his son, Leif, created a cultural rift in the colony. Fjordhild's church was small, but its archaeological discovery was a major link to the saga accounts. Erik's refusal to abandon the old gods was a source of friction within his own family. Freydis Eiriksdottir, his daughter, was depicted in the sagas as a fierce and formidable woman. The story of Erik's fall from his horse is a poignant moment in the Vinland sagas. His acceptance of his fate showed a different, more reflective side to his character. The epidemic that killed him highlights the fragility of life in the isolated colony. His burial site, though unknown, is presumed to be near his farm at Brattahlid. The Greenland colony's eventual decline was caused by a cooling climate and loss of contact with Europe. But for centuries, it was a thriving outpost of European culture on the edge of the known world. Erik the Red's story is preserved in two main sources: the saga of Erik the Red and the Greenlanders saga. His legacy is not just of a discoverer, but of a founder and a leader of people. He transformed a personal punishment into a national achievement. Name Greenland remains his most enduring and successful piece of propaganda. His life was a testament to the Viking spirit of adventure, a relentless push against the boundaries of their world. The first winter in Iceland was a harsh lesson in survival for the transplanted Norwegian family. Erik learned to read the land, a skill that would later serve him well. The concept of outlawry was a central part of the Icelandic legal system. Erik's friends had to hide him from Thorgest Skinsman before he could escape Iceland. The construction of his ship was a community effort, requiring skilled carpenters. They likely used ravens to help find their direction, releasing them and following their flight path. The psychological toll of the long, uncertain voyage must have been immense. Finding a source of fresh water would have been the first priority upon landing. They would have encountered flora and fauna unknown to them. Decision to name his future home Brattahlid reflected the dramatic local topography. The tales he told back in Iceland likely exaggerated the land's virtues. The colonists brought with them the seeds and grains they hoped to grow. The sight of the reduced fleet arriving must have been a mix of triumph and tragedy. Dividing the land among the chief families was a critical and potentially contentious process. The western settlement was more dependent on hunting than the larger eastern settlement. The Skraelings, as the Norse called the natives, were a source of both curiosity and conflict. The establishment of a bishopric at Garayar in the eastern settlement solidified the colony's Christian identity. Erik's great hall at Brattahlid would have been a smoky, lively center of the community. The story illustrates the personal, often violent, nature of Viking age politics. Ultimately, Erik the Red's greatest discovery was a new home for his people, born from his own banishment.